Right. So fabulous. Hey guys. So today, if you are wanting to learn about how to achieve a grade 9 in your speaking and actually really learn those answers, or you'll want to help your child do that, then this is going to be for you because here's a fun fact. So pre-learned answers. Actually, if you look at the examiner's report, so AQA, EdExcel, all of the exam boards, the pre-learned answers are actually the thing that is causing students to actually drop marks. But what I'm actually going to walk you through today is three things that you can do so that when your child is learning, or if you are the student who are learning those questions or learning those answers, they don't sound pre-learned and you're not relying on it being pre-learned. So one of the reasons why students typically pre-learn answers is because they struggle to form sentences on the spot and they think, oh my gosh, I've got to form a sentence on the spot, and teachers get worried about that too. And so what they do, instead of teaching them what I'm going to teach you today, is they teach you to pre-learn answers so that you're giving so that they can mark the answers beforehand, that they know that it's accurate, they know that it's correct. But when you look at the examiner's reports and then you look back at the marks that students are actually getting, and even when I sit and listen to them, because I'm an AQA examiner, what I hear is the mistakes that the teachers are actually trying to avoid their students making, when if instead what students actually did is they just learnt to speak accurately, then they would be able to correct themselves when they're speaking. And so, what I'm actually going to walk you through is how to be able to make sure that, yes, you can still, I'm not telling you to go completely against what your teacher's telling you, but how you can work with your teacher, but also avoid doing that. So, I'm going to walk you through really the three steps. Let's see whether I can find it. It likes to not share screen. Screen. Here we go. So there are three real things that you can do to make sure that you are able to still, you don't have to completely avoid pre-learning answers, but that you're able to achieve a grade 9. The first two are ways in which you can write your answers, and then the final one we're going to look at is actually how you can memorize those answers as well, without actually memorizing. So the first thing that's really important that you are doing is giving other people's opinions. So I've got a few here. So one of the things that students do is they will give an opinion. They'll say, "Oh, I like." Let's think about. They'll ask, "What do you do in your free time?" And so I like to play football, for example, in my free time. En mi tiempo libre me gusta jugar al fútbol. But they don't talk about anybody else's opinions. Pero mi hermana no le gusta jugar al fútbol, prefiere jugar al tennis, for example. She prefers to play tennis. And the reason why it's really important to give other people's opinions is because the examiner wants to see that there is variety in your ability to give opinions. It's really important in the general conversation that you actually are giving opinions, but most teachers will make sure that you're doing that. But one of the things that we see is that there is a lack of variety in those opinions. It's all about what you think. And one of the things that they want to see at grade 9 is that you can express what other people think. The best way to give other opinions, because I know that there's loads going on in the exam, the best way in which you can give other people's opinions is giving a contrasting opinion to your own. So if it's opposite to you, so just I always try to tell my students to think, right, you like something, your sister hates it. You hate it, your brother loves it. That's your you think it's important, your friends think that it's a waste of time. And so if you can try and learn opinions in opposites. So learn me gusta, but learn no me gusta. Learn no le gusta. No, and learn them in the different tenses as well. So if you look here, so cree que, piensa que are in the present tense. Great. Diría que is actually in the conditional tense, but you're not having to think, oh, I need to think about the conditional tense if you learn it as a way of just giving an opinion. This also adds that complexity to it as well. He oído que, he leído que, I have heard that, I have read that. Again, that's another tense, adding that grade 9 complexity and giving somebody else's opinion because I've read that or I've heard that people think this. That's another way of giving people's opinions. This one, I cannot stress to make sure that it's really important to learn. Why? Because of this word here. Students always, always, always forget it and end up just giving their own opinion again, because the le changes it to the he or she rather than the me, rather than the I form, which is what students learn and they know. So it's really important that you're learning how to give other people's opinions so well in advance so that you can actually do this quite easily. This is a great phrase that is sometimes taught, sometimes not taught. It's often taught in the I form. So tengo ganas de. Okay, I'm like, I can't wait, or I'm excited to. Okay, that's another grade 7 plus phrase. And so if you can use it in some to give somebody else's opinion, so he or she is excited to, or they can't wait, or they can't wait to, or they're excited to, that's another way of giving opinions. And maybe you're not excited about that. Okay, so the first thing that's really important is giving other people's opinions and making sure that it is different to yours. Second thing, this is my favorite thing of all because it is for me one of the simplest things to learn once you've learned it. It's called my two tense technique. What I always say is try to answer all of your general conversation questions. We're not talking about the photo call, we're not talking about the role play here. That's a different step. That's a different strategy. But always try to answer your general conversation questions with two tenses. So let me show you what the might look like. Let's think of a question. Insert my question mark here. Is it going to do it for me? Muchísimas gracias. Oh no, I don't want to do that there. So I'm thinking of ¿qué te gusta hacer? Let's just do that one. ¿Qué te gusta hacer en tu tiempo libre? What do you like to do in your free time? So whenever you're thinking about answering your question, that might be one of the questions. Sorry, excuse me, my throat. So that might be one of the questions that your teacher asks you, for example. What do you like to do in your free time? You think about, okay, what's the tense that is going to answer that question? The present tense. So here we go. En mi tiempo libre me gusta leer libros y ver películas. También también disfruto cocinar. Mi comida favorita es el pollo. And then let's incorporate some other people's opinions. Sin embargo, mi hermana no aguanta so she can't stand el pollo, ya que es vegetariana. Okay, given that she's a vegetarian. So in my free time, I like to read books and watch films. This was just on the spot. Also, I enjoy cooking. My favorite, sorry, my favorite food is chicken. However, my sister can't stand chicken, given that she is a vegetarian. Great answer. Okay. It's great because we're giving other people's opinions. I've told you what I like to do in my free time. Fabulous. I've answered it in the present tense, but this two tense technique adds that variety and adds that complexity to your answer, because one of the notes that the examiner has written both in over a few years now, both over AQA and Edexcel, is that students have to be prompted a lot to reach the criteria. And so that means that to be able to reach the criteria, that one of the things that you have to do is be able to speak in all three time frames, which is this past, present, and future. And so what happens is students have to be asked a past tense question or a future tense question to speak in the future tense or to speak in the past tense. Well, sorry, with this two tense technique, it means that you are not being prompted by your teacher to actually hit those things. And you still will be prompted because they're going to ask you questions in the past, in the present, in the future, etc. But what this does is it means that it actually allows for you to show off, hey, look, I'm confident of speaking in the past tense or the future tense and not just relying on my teacher to guide me through the exam. So you could I often teach my students to actually just prepare a story in both, but just for the sake of time, um what can we do? However, last weekend, yeah, let's do that. So el fin de semana pasado, fui a un restaurante con mi hermana y sus amigas para celebrar su cumpleaños. That's not going to give me the double N, is it? I'm going to have to find it. So just recapping what that means. Where are we in? So last weekend, I went with my sister to a restaurant to celebrate her birthday. Um, y lo pasé fenomenal. La comida era deliciosa. Okay, that's just me being nice and really quick. That okay, given that the food was delicious. So that's just a really quick way of adding in a different thing. You don't need to tell a whole story and go through the 10 things. That's two sentences. But it's just an extra piece of information to lengthen your answer, to add that complexity and add that variety. So that's what I make sure that students are always doing. So if you make sure that when you're writing your answers, because nobody's saying don't write your answers, don't allow your teacher to read them. I don't personally get my students in school to do that, but that's just because in my school, my kids have been learning this from year 7. So there is no need for mine to do this. However, as in to write their answers, because they learn this two tense technique, they learn giving contrasting opinions. We start to implement it right in year 7 all the way up. So by the time they get to year 10, this is something that is drilled into them. But if you are somebody that's kind of in year 10, in year 11, you're going to have to write down your answers if this is not something that has been implemented. So when you're writing down your answers, prepare like this. Make sure that in every question you are giving different opinions, giving other people's opinions as well as your own, and then making sure that you are adding two tenses. So then we go, okay, well, how do we learn this? How do we actually go about learning it without learning it? Because how did I start this? Pre-learned answers are the biggest reason why students are actually making grammatical mistakes. Now, let me go over again why that is. The reason being is they've learned this answer, their teachers have corrected it, but they don't know or don't necessarily understand the grammar rules behind how their teacher corrected it. So when they get into the exam, what actually ends up happening is they just make the same mistakes that you made when your teacher had marked it before they'd marked it. The same mistakes are made because you haven't actually learned the construction of these sentences. So what I did is that was racking my brain for a while. As marking exams, I was thinking, why are these students doing this? Because you can tell it that there's a good answer here, but they're just making lots of serious errors, and serious errors are anything that affects communication. And so they're making these serious errors, and I can see that there's a good answer there. What's happening? And so working with my own students, working with students that are coming to me in the GCSE Spanish Academy, and I started to think, No, that's the reason. It's because they are pre-learning answers and they're not necessarily recognizing that they're not understanding the mistakes that have actually been corrected. So this is a way in which you can learn your answers and understand the mistakes that have been corrected, and also not necessarily need to completely rely on the word for word, because that is the other thing that happens is they rely on the word for word and then they get stuck when they can't remember a word and have no idea how to reframe that answer. So then they panic. And if that happens in their chosen theme, it just sends, I've seen it so many times, it just sends the exam south. And then you get a student crying at the end, which is not great. So this is how we avoid it. It's called my three-step mind map. So, yes, you're going to prepare your answers. This answer is something that I had written beforehand. It was an answer for something to do with the environment. So that's the lovely theme that I oh so dearly love. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I absolutely despise this. Um, this because it's so difficult to speak about for students at the age of 16. But beside the point. So step one, the first thing that you do is you're going to read your answer, and you read your answer over and over and over and over again. One of the things that we walk through if you is you can record. So I remember doing this for myself when I did my GCSEs many, many years ago. And I recorded myself saying my answers and listen back to it. Now, there's a caveat here. Back when I did my GCSE, you were allowed to pre-learn answers. Examiners are now trained to actually mark you down when you are pre-learning answers. Back when I did my GCSEs, that wasn't an issue. But anyway, it's still what I did, and I still was able to learn my answers. I can still remember it now. My theme was the holidays. That was my chosen theme. And I talked about going to Dubai. But you read it, you write it down, you read your answers. Then what you want to do is you want to prepare, and you can prepare a few of these where you remove all of the verbs, because the one of the key mistakes that students make is in their verbs. And so you're going to go through it. You're literally just going to copy and paste it. And that's exactly what I did. I had this and then I just copied and pasted it and went through all of the verbs. And so now what you've got is, now that you've done this, you've listened to it, you've done it a few times, you can maybe spend 3 to 5 minutes kind of reading through it. You're then just focusing on getting your verbs right. And so if you've got somebody that can be involved as well, that's even better, but it's no issue if not. You just go through it, and you don't write down the verbs, but you're reading it out. So en mi opinión, something tantos problemas medioambientales. I didn't even read it, so I'm like, okay. So you're going to en mi opinión hay tantos problemas medioambientales como la sobrepoblación y la deforestación, etc. And you're going to go and you're going to fill in those words by saying them. What that's going to do is that's going to make sure that you actually know the verbs that you need to use in the sentence, avoiding the most common serious error. Once you've done that, you've got an idea of what these verbs are. Okay, so we're thinking in a 30-minute session, you're going to pick a question, you're going to do this, read that for 3 to 5 minutes, then you're going to do another 3 to 5 minutes of this. Then what you're going to want to do, step 3, is reduce it into chunks of ideas. So I did it in Spanish. You can do it in English. Like, what are the things that I am talking about? Well, the first thing I'm talking about is that there are lots of environmental problems, and I give you a couple of examples. But then I talk about the next thing that I talk about is the most serious problem, in my opinion. And then I tell you what contributes to that most serious problem. And then I say, well, so then I give a solution to that problem. Then I talk about the fact that in the past, you can do this in English, so I've just done it in Spanish. In the past, the certain things that worried me and the reason why, and what I did to benefit the situation, to solve the situation myself. And then I give another suggestion. And then I tell you what I am going to do in the future to really adhere to the suggestion that I made. So that's 9 different ideas. I split them up into Spanish, and then I actually then have gone and split them up into English. And this is what you then, this is your final bit of revision. So this is what you want all of your questions to look like. You've got the answers that you've written, but when it comes to revising, especially as you're getting kind of closer to that GCSE time, so we're looking kind of January time. If you can do this before your mocks, this is even better, because then you actually get a practice at doing this. So this is what all of your questions now look like. I'm going to walk you through what the difference is, what the way in which you can use this. So you've got the ideas, look, that's what I've just kind of walked you through. Okay. And then I've gone on to what's it called? The noun project. Great. It's free. You do have to sign up with an email, but it's completely free. And what it does is you can type in a word and it gives you a picture or an image of that word. So I've got, for example, problems with problems, overpopulation, and deforestation. So I've got people and some trees, whatever it is that's going to help you remember it. And so now the way in which you can use it in a few ways. You can just have it like this, and you can just go through and go, well, how can I express? I know that the question is, for example, what are the most serious problems? Yeah, what are the most serious global problems in your opinion? So I know that the first thing that I'm going to say is I'm going to talk about the problem being overpopulation and deforestation, that there are those problems. So I now just have to practice expressing that. So, en mi opinión, un problema global muy importante o muy grave para mí es la sobrepoblación y la deforestación. I did not say this, okay? But I've still expressed it. So what that's going to do is you practice this and you begin to practice like this and you go, okay, right, I've got to express this problem. I've got to express, right, the biggest problem is air pollution. Sin embargo, para mí, el problema más grave es air pollution. Okay? That's not even what I said. Pero that's not even what I wrote. But I've correctly expressed that idea. So then you're no longer focused on, oh my gosh, I can't remember the word for, I don't know, I've just forgotten. My mind has just gone, and I knew that I was going to say pero and then something, and I can't remember what that word is. And then the whole rest of your answer goes, you go, okay, well, I've just got to answer I've just got to talk about the biggest problem being air pollution. Because then you've sectioned it off in your main language in your head, and then you're able to then just go through and express those ideas and get comfortable expressing those ideas. Now, there are a few ways that you can use this. You can have them and you can kind of cut them off here and have them as flashcards. You can have them as flashcards and you can cut them along and then fold them. And so you've got the English on one side, the picture on the other, and you can use each side. Or you can just decide that you're actually just going to use this, okay, because you might be more of a visual person. And so these symbols are going to be really helpful to help you break down your answer, okay? And that is really it. The way in which you can kind of supercharge this, I kind of said that. So visual learners, yeah. So if you're kind of more of a visual learner, you can highlight all of the different verbs in different colors. So as you're going through this verb section here, so this step, each of your verbs, maybe you'll go through a pattern. Maybe you'll do like pink, orange, yellow, green. So you can remember each of those words. You might choose, for example, pink for all of your past tense verbs. You might choose green for all of your future tense verbs. That's just an example. I talked about recording yourself. Yeah. And so really that is it. So making sure that when you're writing your answers, you are giving others opinions and trying to make sure that you've got a second tense to answer each question, and then walking through this 3-step mind map to actually learn the answers to those questions. So that is all of the teaching done. I'm going to stick this in the chat so that you've actually got access to this copy. And then you can unmute and then ask me any questions that you've got. Was that helpful? Have you got any questions?
Yeah, it was really helpful.
Have you got any questions? Anything that you want to kind of workshop through?
So how long should each answer be for each of the questions, roughly?
That's a really good question. So there's no specific kind of there's no like you must do it in this particular time. But there I would try to kind of keep them at 3 to 5 different ideas for each question.
Okay.
That's kind of the rule that I kind of have. Try to have 3 to 5 different ideas because you want to dominate the conversation. You want to be talking more
Yeah.
than your teacher. So what I always say is in the general conversation, you really don't want your teacher to ask you any more than 7 questions. If they are asking you kind of 7 questions upwards, you're not talking enough.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any
Um,
other questions? Yeah, go for it.
Also, I was told to not give other people's opinions unless it's like explicitly said in the question. Like when you're answering a question, you should give your opinion and give more details on that, but you might be marked down because it saying other people's opinions might deviate from the question. So,
Yes, so I give your own opinion and then give a contrasting opinion from somebody else is what I was kind of saying, rather than trying
oh,
to give other people's opinion and just leaving that as the answer to the question. Yeah, so if they're asking for your opinion, yes, first give your own opinion, but that's what everybody's going to do. But if you're trying to move your grade up to closer to that grade 9, there's got to be more detail to your opinion. And so one of the things that you can talk about is giving other people's opinions. You can talk about how you disagree with that opinion and why. That just gives you a little bit more to talk about rather than just sticking to yourself. Does that make sense? But
yeah, it
do
makes
give your
sense.
own opinion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
How would you improve on like the pronunciation of words? Because for me, I haven't gone any speaking practice since year seven, and now I'm in year 10. And the
Oh
only
no.
time, my school didn't do much of that. It was mainly just like reading papers and then writing papers. And only like 2 or 3 weeks before my mocks, we were given our oral questions and we got time to like do our own practice with our partners in class.
Mm.
So how can I improve my pronunciation?
That is so what I'm actually going to do because you said that I have a here we go, the complete guide to GCSE Spanish pronunciation. It's like a 20-minute video. I was very pregnant while I was filming it, so I apologize. But I'm going to just send that to you in the chat. You can access it there, and so it walks through all of the different bits of pronunciation. But a key thing is that you're getting regular feedback. So the 3 things that I talk about, if you want to ever do anything, when it comes to a plan, you want to make sure that you are doing the right content. Well, I've just sent you something that gives you the right content, so the right pronunciation for all of those different words. You want to be doing it at the right consistency. So you want to be regularly going through and practicing it, but you also want to be making sure that you're getting regular feedback so that you're not consistently, because as you do something consistently, it will become a habit. And so what you want is regular feedback to make sure that you are not learning the wrong thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that
And
makes
so
sense.
you can watch things, etc., but the feedback is really important. So if you can get regular feedback, that would be the thing that I would say is really important because you sound like a student who's really going to work hard and do something and do it regularly. And I've just given you all of the ways in which you can pronounce words. And that's part of my online curriculum. So I've just sent you one of those there. But yeah, it's just making sure that you're getting that regular feedback is going to be really, really key.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
helpful. No
Yeah, that was
worries.
really helpful. Thank you.
No worries? Is there anything else before we go?
Um, no, I don't think so.
No, excellent. Well, do get in touch. I'm not quite sure who your parent is, but if they've got any questions, do get them to get in touch with myself and make sure that you've got access to those 2 links that I've sent you in the chat. Have you got them?
Uh, yes, I do.
Fabulous, excellent. Right, so that is that from me. I will see you if you're coming in 2 weeks. Otherwise, get in touch in the group. Adios.
Thank you,
No,
Astriana. Bye.
bye bye.